With a very bold move late in the running, Denny Hamlin goes to victory lane for the 50th time in his career and the 7th at Pocono.
Yeah, definitely. Denny elevating himself again, become the all-time win leader at Pocono and finding victory lane against stiff competition.
Well, you mentioned that competition. I thought it was going to be Larson and Truex Jr. that got Toyota its 600th win. It ended up being Denny Hamlin. Let's talk about the 19, the 11, and even the 5. A lot's going to be discussed about that move. But let's talk about the strategy. We had this stage set with a heavyweight battle where in the end Truex didn't have the lead late. Let's talk about the strategy.
Yeah, the 19, I thought James Small called the race he needed to. Stayed out at stage 1, got stage points out of it, and pitted there, what, at 33? You know, when you look at this as a crew chief, you feel like you've got to make it to 80 and then on to 120. James did that. Took 4 tires at those 2 spots. That stop at 32 with the caution flags got him to his lap 80. Executed the race that I think everybody thought, every crew chief would have thought, would have been the race winning strategy.
I hate to call it the perfect strategy because it ended up not being the correct one, but I don't think the 19 could have done anything different. 3 stops, fast car, 4 tires. So let's focus on the 2 cars that leapfrogged the 19 on that final green flag pit stop. The 11 and the 5. Really, 2 different reasons got him here, but in the end, less time on pit road.
Yeah, if you look at the 5 car, you know, he was in control of the race, had good pace, was restarted there, what, lap 46? Yeah. Got a push down into turn 1 and got a push so far down into turn 1 that Christopher Bell spun him out and had to come to pit road. That put him where he lost his track position, but he got fuel and tires in a little different position than where the rest of the field was.
Well, that's when you go in your playbook and you flip from plan A to plan B. You're at the back of the field. What are you going to do? I love the call, really, that the 5 made. They ran long in stage 2. I thought they were going to pit right before the end of stage 2. They got a caution, somehow made it, running around on fumes. Then they won the stage, full fuel, 4 tires, set for that final stage.
Yeah, it puts them in a situation where they've got a recovery plan at that point. They've got tires, they've got fuel. They still need one more stop, but that stop doesn't need to be a 20-gallon fuel stop. It's going to be a 2-tire and whatever gas you can get in during it. That gets them there. They're hoping that that makes the track position back for them. They got a gift. They got a gift when the 3 car spun out at 107.
Yeah, that really bunched up the field, right? The 11 of Denny Hamlin also pitted at the end of stage 2. So here's basically how it worked. End of stage 2, the 11 and the 5, 4 tires full of fuel. The 19 stays out, he has the lead. He is trying to gap those other 2 cars. He knows he needs more fuel in. Remember, you can change tires in 10 seconds. It takes about 12 seconds for fuel. You mentioned the wreck at lap 106 for the 3 car. That bunched everybody back up. That's a difference maker because if we take a look at the running order, lap 117, we haven't started green flag cycles yet. Larson and Truex Jr. the leader. Denny Hamlin in 7th. The 5 of Kyle Larson, if you can believe it, is all the way back in 11th. 7 seconds behind. He pits first and only spends 4.5 seconds in the pit box.
Yeah, because that's all he needed for fuel, and they got a great 2-tire stop on it at that point. On the flip side, Larson and Truex Jr., when he comes, he's waiting on fuel. 12.7 seconds. There's the difference, that 7 seconds. That flipped him in front of Larson.
What we'll never know is if the 4 tires was going to work for Truex because in the end it was Larson leading, Denny 2nd, Truex in 3rd, basically nose to tail in the closing laps before we get that wreck with the 14 car that kind of changed the entire complexion of the race. And from this point, we take the transition. While strategy is important at Pocono, it always comes down to restarts and good decisions on the restarts.
Yeah, definitely good decisions and restarts. And it looked like the outside line would dominate here, but and we both know this, it's not only having the right line, but it's having the right health. And when you look at it, where you stack up on the restarts, it has a big impact on who's successful.
Where you stack up and where you choose. So when we look at Pocono restarts, what I like is the outside line in turn 1 is a great place to be. And the outside line on the front stretch, it's straight. Why does it matter? Because that wall forces the guy behind you to stick with you. Consistently, we see the top lane getting the best push for the first quarter mile of the straightaway. That's why it was interesting to me. In the final restarts, the 19 and the 11 kept swapping positions. Whoever was running 2nd chose the inside of the front row. Whoever was running 3rd chose the outside of row 2. And that car ended up 2nd off turn 1.
Yeah, and in both cases, the outside got the better push. And not necessarily, we often see guys try to make it 3 wide from the bottom and that they're not as organized. But even here, they just didn't get attached. And that puts you in a situation where you're at a negative. And like you said, when Larson and Truex was behind Kyle Larson, He got to second. Then he picked the bottom, and Denny gave Kyle a great push on that final restart to get himself clear where he can make the move.
Yeah, so the restart with the infamous move happened. It wasn't the final restart, but let's talk about exactly how everyone got there. We know the move. We know the second half. Contact, high up the racetrack, the 5 into the wall. But let's talk about how he got there. Truex, running second, picks the front row. Denny Hamlin picks third on the outside. The shove to the 5 is unbelievable so far that he's clear left. But you brought up a point I didn't think of. I thought the 5 overdrove turn 1. But you thought maybe he was thinking about earlier when he got spun out by the 20.
That's the piece I looked at, is earlier on a restart, he checked up, the 20 was still on him and got him spun out. So he drove down in there deep to make sure that he didn't become a victim of the push. He was getting a great push, but that, in essence, gave Denny the opportunity to clear Martin Truex on the bottom and make the turn to the bottom.
Yeah, I love the choose rule. I love it allows the drivers to put themselves in different positions. And I know it didn't work for Truex, but I'm team front row guy. If I can start on the front row, that is where I'm going to want to start every time.
Well, you're going to have to get clean air at this place, and that's the best opportunity to see in clean air. If you're starting behind him, you're starting in dirty air. Well, Denny made it work with a turn down to the bottom, but as a racer with that few laps left, you want the opportunity.
Well, you mentioned clean air. 3 drivers that didn't see clean air all day long. I don't think they were in the top 10 all day long until it mattered. All 3 finished in the top 10. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in 7th, Harrison Burton in 8th, Eric Jones in 9th, all finished inside the top 10. We talk a lot about strategy and how you win the race. These 3 cars use strategy to greatly improve their days. Break it down for me.
Yeah, we talk about this place being a kind of like a road course strategy, right? First one to do your last pit. They went the opposite, which sometimes when you're buried back there, you have to do things differently or you're going to come out with the same outcome. They went long. All 3 of these cars pitted in the 130s, I think 134 to 137. They pitted late, and that put them where when the caution did come 4 or 5 laps later, they're on fresh tires relative to guys with 20-lap-old tires, and puts them in a situation where they can bump themselves forward and have a tire advantage for the last few restarts.
You look at this line graph, nothing about this looks fun. Up, down. You mentioned the part right here is really where they ran long. That's the difference maker for these 3 cars. But then you see the cautions and the restarts after that. They did a really nice job. Let's think about this. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. gets his first top 10 at Pocono in his 20th start. Harrison Burton, his second top 10 of the year. And Eric Jones, 8th top 10 in 12 starts. Statistically, other than Darlington, where Eric Jones has won twice, this is Eric Jones' best track, a great run for Legacy.
It was a great run for him, and that's one of the statistics that's under the radar. I wouldn't have put him as being that good here. He's good, but I wouldn't have thought this would have been that great a track. 8 out of 12. I mean, that's a great statistic. 3
top 10s, great days for these teams, but it can't be a great day for everyone. And unfortunately, it was a bad day for Daniel Suarez in Pocono. He said it in his interview. They just didn't perform great. They got a little behind, they got caught up in a wreck. And for that reason, when we take a look at the points, and specifically the points around the bubble, Suarez, the big loser, minus 22. He's now 18th, 23 points below the cut line.
Yeah, definitely a tough day for them. I did lose with Grace there and looked inwardly, which was cool about it. You look at this rundown, and we've got the points plus or minus from just this weekend beside it. There's some big winners here. Bubba Wallace had a very solid day. I thought was in a position that could have been a contender at one point, but came away with what he needed, 25 points plus.
Michael McDowell just quietly continues to give themselves a little separation. I think the concern for Michael McDowell and Bubba Wallace is it even going to be points? So I'll ask you that question. Allmendinger with road courses coming up. Ty Gibbs runs better every single week at top 5 at Pocono. Alex Bowman, Chase Elliott, 18 career wins. Do we see another winner over the next 5?
I think we do. I do. I can't believe that there's too many opportunities here. When you talk about the 2 road courses that are coming up, you brought up A.J. Allmendinger. Daniel Suarez has run well at these places. Austin Cindric could come back and do that. We've got Daytona at the end. The Fords have been decently fast. So I think there's so many places we could see a winner, and that may make this a little tighter.
While everyone is focused at the bubble, because that's who's going to make the playoffs, at the top of the leaderboard, that race for the regular season championship, it was William Byron. Now with some great races behind him, Martin Truex Jr. has taken over the top spot.
Yeah, definitely. They've had momentum. Since that win at Dover, they've been on a great trajectory coming forward. Chase down William Byron. It'd be interesting to see how Rudy Fugle and William can recover from this kind of lull they've had the last few races in the 5 upcoming.
It's going to be fun to watch. We have a champion veteran in Martin Truex Jr., an up-and-coming superstar with William Byron, and 5 races remain in the regular season. The last short track of the regular season this week at Richmond.